The sky above Seoul turned dark at exactly 6:47 in the morning. Admiral was drinking his coffee when the call came. He put down his cup and walked to the window of his apartment. What he saw made his blood run cold. A ship hung in the sky. It was bigger than anything he had ever seen, bigger than mountains, bigger than cities. It blocked the sun like a giant metal hand covering the earth, had been a military man for 30 years. He had seen wars, he had seen death, but he had never seen anything like this. His phone rang again. This time he answered. "Admiral, you need to come to Command Center, now." Was in his car within 3 minutes. The streets were chaos. People stood outside their homes pointing at the sky. Some were crying, some were praying. Children held their parents' hands and asked questions that nobody could answer. What is that thing? Where did it come from? Are we going to die? The command center was underground, built to survive nuclear war. When arrived, the room was already full of military officers, scientists, and government officials. Every screen showed the same image, the massive ship hovering over the Pacific Ocean. "What do we know?" asked. A young officer named stepped forward. "Sir, the ship is approximately 40 kilometers long. It appeared from some kind of space tunnel about an hour ago. We have tried to contact it. No response." "Weapons?" "Unknown, sir. But based on the energy readings, we believe it could destroy our entire planet." Felt his stomach turn. 40 kilometers, that was longer than most cities. What kind of beings could build such a thing? The answer came 20 minutes later. Every screen in the world suddenly showed the same image. A creature appeared. It looked almost human but taller, with gray skin and 4 eyes. It wore golden armor and sat on a throne made of black metal. Behind it stood rows of soldiers, each holding weapons that glowed with strange light. The creature spoke. Its voice was cold, like ice cracking in winter. "I am Emperor of the Empire. We have watched your world for many years. Your planet is rich with resources we need. Your people are strong enough to serve our purposes. Therefore, I give you this choice." Emperor leaned forward on his throne. "You have 72 hours to surrender. Give us control of your planet, your resources, and your population. In return, we will let you live as servants of our empire. This is generous. We have conquered 43 worlds. Most did not receive such kindness." The Emperor's 4 eyes seemed to stare directly through the screen. "If you refuse, we will burn your world to ash. Your cities will become dust. Your people will become memories. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. You can only obey or die." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody in the command center spoke, looked around the room. He saw fear in every face. These were brave men and women. They had dedicated their lives to protecting their country. But how do you fight something that can destroy planets? "Get me connected to the World Council," said quietly. Within the hour, leaders from every nation were meeting through video screens. The President of Korea, the Prime Minister of Japan, the leaders of America, China, Europe, Africa, and more. All of them looked the same way, scared, lost, hopeless. "We should surrender," said one leader. "We cannot win this fight. If we give them what they want, at least our people will survive." "Survive as slaves," said another. "Is that really living?" "It is better than being dead." The argument went on for hours, listened quietly. He understood both sides. He was a practical man. He knew that sometimes you had to accept defeat to save lives, but something in his heart refused to accept this. Then a new voice entered the meeting. "May I speak?" Everyone turned to look. A young woman stepped into view on the Korean screen. She wore a pilot's uniform. Her name tag said. She was small, with short black hair and eyes that burned like fire. "Who is this?" demanded one of the leaders. "Captain said, one of our best pilots, let her speak." Looked directly at the camera. Her voice was calm but strong. "I have been listening to you all talk about surrender. about survival, about being practical, but I think you are missing something important." She paused. "That emperor said they have conquered 43 worlds. Do you know what that means? It means 43 planets saw those ships and immediately gave up. They knelt down and accepted chains without fighting." Shook her head. "They have never fought a real war. They show up with their big ships and their scary weapons, and everyone just falls down in fear. They do not know what it means to face an enemy who refuses to quit. They do not understand what humans are." One of the leaders laughed bitterly. "And what are humans, Captain? We cannot match their technology. Our weapons are toys compared to theirs." Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made peace with death. "Humans are the species that walked out of Africa with nothing but rocks and sticks and conquered the entire planet. Humans are the species that keeps fighting even when there is no hope. We have spent our entire history killing each other in wars. We have invented more ways to cause death than any other creature in existence." She stepped closer to the camera. "To think they know what war is. They have no idea. They have never faced an enemy who will bury bombs under their own homes just to kill invaders. They have never faced soldiers who will crash their own planes into enemy ships. They have never faced people who would rather die standing than live on their knees." The room was silent. "Maybe we will lose," continued. "Maybe they will kill us all, but if we surrender, we lose everything that makes us human, our pride, our freedom, our souls. I would rather burn than bow." Felt something change in the room. The fear was still there, but now there was something else mixed with it, something that had kept humans alive through ice ages and plagues and world wars, something that refused to die. He stood up. "I vote we fight." One by one, other leaders began to stand. Not all of them. Some still wanted to surrender, but most of them, when they looked inside themselves, found the same fire that had described. The vote was taken, 57 nations to 18. Humanity would not surrender. Personally wrote the response. It was sent on every radio frequency, every television channel, every communication system on Earth. It reached the ship within seconds. The message was one word: no. In the command center, turned to his officers. He saw standing among them, her eyes still burning. "We have 72 hours, he said. "Let us show these aliens what humanity can do." Nobody cheered. Nobody celebrated. They all knew they were probably going to die, but they also knew that some things were worth dying for. Outside, the giant ship still hung in the sky, blocking the sun. But somewhere on Earth, in 1,000 different places, humans were already preparing to fight back. Scientists were studying the enemy ship for weaknesses. Soldiers were checking their weapons. Pilots were climbing into their planes. The Empire had come to Earth expecting easy prey. They had made a terrible mistake. They did not expect the humans to say no. In 400 years of conquest, no species had ever refused their demands. Emperor sat on his throne and read the single-word response with all four of his eyes. "No," he repeated slowly. He turned to his advisor. "They said no." "Perhaps they did not understand the message, Emperor. These creatures are primitive. Their technology is barely capable of leaving their own planet." Shook his head. "They understood. They simply do not believe we will destroy them." He waved his hand. "Send landing parties to the major population centers. Kill enough of them to demonstrate our power. Then they will surrender." 1,000 soldiers loaded into transport ships. They had the best weapons in the galaxy. Their armor could stop any bullet. Their shields could block any explosion. They had conquered species far more advanced than humans. They thought this would be easy. Lieutenant watched the enemy transports descend towards Seoul from his position in the mountains. He was sitting in a fighter jet that looked like it belonged in a museum. Compared to the ships, it was a toy made of paper. But was not worried about his plane. He was worried about the thing strapped underneath it. For the past 2 days, every scientist on Earth had been working on one problem. How do you hurt something that cannot be hurt? The shields blocked everything. Nuclear missiles, lasers, every weapon humanity had tried. But a young physicist named had found something interesting. The shields worked by absorbing energy and redirecting it. They were almost perfect. Almost, but they had one weakness. They needed half a second to adjust to new types of energy. Half a second was not much, but it was enough. His plane carried an electromagnetic pulse bomb modified with radioactive material. The combination would confuse the shield for just a moment, and in that moment, whatever came next would get through. The problem was getting close enough to use it. "All units, this is command," Admiral's voice came through the radio. "The enemy transport ships are landing in downtown Seoul. Ground forces are engaging. Air Squadron, you are cleared for operation." Looked at the 12 pilots flying beside him. They were the best Korea had. Some were young, barely out of training. Others were veterans who had been flying for 20 years. All of them knew they would probably not survive this mission. One pilot's voice came through the radio. It was Sergeant. She was only 24 years old. "Lieutenant, I want you to know something. If my plane goes down, I am not ejecting. I am taking as many of those things with me as I can." Closed his eyes for a moment. "Understood, Sergeant, but let us try to survive first. Dead heroes cannot fight tomorrow." The squadron flew towards Seoul. Below them, the city was burning. The landing force had expected the humans to run. Instead, they found resistance everywhere. Soldiers fired from buildings. Civilians threw rocks and bottles. An old woman drove her car directly into a group of soldiers at full speed. The impact did not hurt them, but it shocked them. No conquered species had ever fought like this. In the streets, Specialist commanded a unit of 50 soldiers. They were hiding in the subway tunnels, waiting. "Remember," he told his men, "their armor is too strong for direct hits. Aim for the joints, the neck, the eyes, make them bleed." A patrol walked past the subway entrance. They were laughing in their strange language, confident in their power. Gave the signal. 50 humans burst from the tunnel, attacking from all sides. They were surprised. They raised their weapons, but the humans were too close, too fast. Shoved a grenade into the gap between a soldier's helmet and chest armor. The explosion killed them both. His men kept fighting. They knew was dead. They did not stop. In the sky above, Squadron approached the main ship. The enemy had not noticed them yet. They were too busy with the chaos on the ground. "All fighters activate stealth protocols," ordered. "Use the satellites as cover. We get one chance at this." Earth's orbital satellites were old and useless against technology, but they served a purpose now. The fighters hid behind them, using the metal to mask their heat signatures. They moved slowly, carefully, like hunters approaching a sleeping giant. The ship grew larger in view. Up close, it was even more terrifying. Its hull was covered with weapons. Its shields glowed with faint blue light. One shot from that ship could destroy everything had ever loved. "I see the shield generators," reported. 4 of them, located at the corners of the ship. "We need to hit at least 2, said. "That should create a gap big enough for the EMP bomb." "I will take the first one," said. Her voice was calm. "Wait for the full squadron to get in position." "There is no time. They are detecting us. I can see their guns moving." She was right. The point defense systems were waking up. In seconds, the sky would be filled with plasma fire. Pushed her plane forward. She flew directly toward the shield generator, ignoring the weapons that began to track her. "Tell my mother I died well," she said. Her plane hit the generator at full speed. She ejected at the last second, her body flying through the explosion. The generator exploded in a burst of blue and white light. Did not have time to mourn. All fighters attack now. The squadron dove toward the ship. Guns filled the sky with death. 3 planes exploded. then 4, then 5, but the remaining pilots kept flying. Another fighter hit a shield generator, then another. Each pilot sacrificed their plane, their life, to create a gap in the enemy's defenses. Was the last one left? He could see the gap in the shields. It was small, barely big enough for his plane. Blue energy crackled around the edges. In seconds, the shields would repair themselves. He pushed his engines to maximum. The guns turned toward him. He felt his plane shake as shots flew past. One hit his wing. Fire exploded behind him. "Come on," he whispered, "come on." He released the EMP bomb and pulled up hard. His damaged plane screamed in protest. For a moment, he thought he would not make it. Then the bomb passed through the gap. The explosion was not large, but its effects were massive. Every electronic system on the ship flickered. Lights went dark. Weapons stopped firing. For 30 seconds, the greatest warship in the fleet was completely helpless. 30 seconds was enough. Earth's remaining missiles, held in reserve for this moment, launched from 100 different locations. They flew toward the gap in the shields, toward the exposed hull. The ship shook. Explosions rippled across its surface. Fires broke out in a dozen places. It did not fall from the sky. It was too big, too strong for that, but it bled. For the first time in 400 years, a warship was wounded. Landed his damaged plane in a field outside Seoul. His hands were shaking. His face was covered in sweat and blood, but he was alive. He looked up at the sky. The ship was still there, still dangerous, still capable of destroying them all. But it was not perfect anymore. In the command center, Admiral watched the damage reports. They had lost 8 pilots, hundreds of soldiers on the ground, thousands of civilians. But they had proven something. They could bleed. And anything that bleeds can die. Emperor stared at the damage reports with disbelief. His ship, the pride of the fleet, had been wounded by primitives. Primitives who still used chemical rockets and metal bullets. Primitives whose fastest ships could barely reach their own moon. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We have conquered civilizations with technology 1,000 years ahead of these creatures." His advisor bowed low. "Emperor, the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered. They do not care about survival. They throw themselves at our weapons. They use their own bodies as bombs. Our soldiers report that even their children attack us." Slammed his fist on his throne. "Then we will teach them the cost of defiance. Send word to the home fleet. I want 3 more dreadnoughts here within 10 days. We will burn this planet until nothing remains but ash and bone." The message was sent. 3 more ships began their journey toward Earth. But something strange was happening in the Empire. Stories were spreading. Stories of the humans who would not surrender. Soldiers shared recordings of the battle. They showed humans charging into certain death. They showed an old woman smiling as she drove her vehicle into their ranks. They showed pilots crashing their planes into shield generators. For species who had been conquered by these stories were something new. They were something dangerous. Hoping. On Earth, the fighting continued. The ground forces had been driven back to small defensive positions. They held their shields up against constant human attacks. Day and night the humans came. They never stopped. They never rested. Senior technician was captured during a raid on a position. She had been trying to steal one of their communication devices when 3 soldiers surrounded her. They did not kill her immediately. They needed information about human military systems. They took her to an interrogation chamber on their damaged ship. The interrogator was unnamed. He was tall, even for his species, and he had been questioning prisoners for 60 years. No one had ever resisted him. "You will tell me the access codes to your military networks," said. "If you cooperate, your death will be quick. If you resist, I will make you suffer for days." Was tied to a metal chair. Her face was covered in blood from the capture. Her left arm was broken. but she looked at and laughed. You think you can make me talk? My grandmother survived the Japanese occupation. My grandfather walked through fire in the war. My father built this country with his bare hands. You think your torture scares me? Leaned closer. Every species believes they are brave until the pain begins. Then begin, said, and I will show you what Korean stubbornness looks like. The torture lasted 3 days. Used every method he knew. Screamed. She cried. She begged for death, but she did not give him a single piece of useful information. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. Asked her a question. Why, he said, why do you resist? Your planet will fall, your people will die or become slaves. Nothing you do will change this. Why suffer for nothing? Looked up at him. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice was barely a whisper. You really do not understand, do you? She said. You have never met a species like us. She coughed blood and continued. We were not always the dominant species on our planet. We were weak, small. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. Bigger animals hunted us every day. Do you know how we survived? Said nothing. We refused to die. When the ice ages came, we survived. When plagues killed millions, we survived. When we fought wars that destroyed entire cities, we survived. We have been practicing for you since the beginning of time. Smiled through broken teeth. You cannot break us because we are already broken. Every human carries the memories of 1,000 years of suffering. War is not new to us. Death is not new to us. You think you are the scariest thing we have ever faced. You are nothing. You are just the latest test. Sent words to his commanders. He did not understand why, but something about them disturbed him. The report spread through the ranks. Soldiers who had been confident began to feel doubt. Meanwhile, beneath the ruined city of, Doctor was working miracles. She had been a physics professor before the invasion. Now she led a team of scientists from 12 different countries. Their mission was simple: take apart every piece of technology they could find and understand how it worked. The work was difficult. Science was far beyond human understanding. Their weapons used energy types that human instruments could not even measure. Their ships were built from materials that did not exist on Earth. But was patient, and she was brilliant. On the 20th day of the invasion, she made a breakthrough. I understand the shields, she announced to her team. They work by creating a pocket of bent space around the object. Energy cannot pass through bent space. It simply goes around. A young scientist named Minyu raised his hand. How does that help us? We cannot unbend space. Smiled. No, but we can match the frequency of the bend. Like tuning a radio. If we create energy that vibrates at exactly the same frequency as the shield, it will pass through as if the shield is not there. The room went silent. You are saying we can build weapons that ignore their shields? Minyu asked. Not just weapons, said. We can build our own shields, our own ships. We can take their technology and make it ours. The news reached Admiral within the hour. He immediately ordered resources redirected to bunker. Factories that had been building missiles now started building components she designed. Workers who had been fighting now started assembling new weapons. They noticed the change in human activity. They sent scouts to investigate. Few returned. Captain led the defense of the bunker personally. She flew mission after mission, attacking any force that came near. Her kill count grew daily. Among her plane became known as the Ghost of. They sent 3 interceptors after me yesterday, she reported to. I destroyed 2. The 3rd ran away. They are learning to fear us, replied. Fear is good. Fear keeps them cautious. Cautious enemies make mistakes. On the 40th day of the invasion, called with news that changed everything. We have successfully tested a plasma weapon, she said. Her voice was shaking with excitement. It uses energy technology but human targeting systems. Our first shot melted through 3 meters of their armor. Closed his eyes. For the first time since the invasion began, he allowed himself to hope. "How many can you build?" "If you give me every factory in Korea, I can have 100 ready in 2 weeks. But Admiral, that is not all." "What else?" Smile could be heard in her voice. "We have started designing a ship. A human ship with technology. It will not be pretty. It will not be elegant, but it will fight." Thought about the 3 dreadnoughts coming to destroy Earth. He thought about the millions who had already died. He thought about the enemy who believed humans were primitives who could not fight back. "Build it," he said. "Build everything you can. When those ships arrive, we will give them a welcome they will never forget." Outside the bunker, Captain landed her fighter and looked up at the sky. The damaged ship still hung there, like a dark moon over the Earth. "Your friends are coming," she whispered. "Good, we will be ready." The 3 dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace on the 63rd day of the invasion. They were even larger than the first ship. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a continent in minutes. Together, they could burn Earth 100 times over. Emperor watched them arrive from his damaged command ship. Finally, he thought. Finally, these stubborn creatures will learn their place. "Signal all ships," he commanded. "Begin planetary bombardment. Start with their largest cities. We will teach them the price of defiance." But before the order could be carried out, something unexpected happened. Alarms screamed across every vessel. Weapons were firing at them, not primitive human missiles, not chemical rockets, plasma weapons, plasma weapons. "Impossible," whispered. Earth had built an orbital defense grid. In 2 months, human scientists had taken stolen technology and created something new. The platforms were ugly. They were held together with metal cables and desperate engineering. But they worked. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked toward the fleet. The shields absorbed most of them, but some got through. Small fires bloomed on the great ships. "Where did they get this technology?" demanded. "Unknown, Emperor, but it appears they have been busy." Busy was an understatement. While they had been waiting for reinforcements, humans had been working day and night. Factories ran 24 hours. Scientists slept in their laboratories. Soldiers trained with captured weapons until their hands bled. Every resource on Earth had been directed toward one goal: survival. And now, rising from the ground like an angry giant, came humanity's answer to the dreadnoughts. They called it the Defiance. It was not beautiful. It was a patchwork monster built from crashed transports, human battleships, and pure desperation. Its hull was covered with mismatched armor, its weapons pointed in every direction. Smoke poured from engines that were never designed to work together. But it flew and it fought. Commander stood on the bridge of the Defiance. She was 42 years old. She had been a submarine captain before the invasion. Now she commanded humanity's first warship capable of fighting in space. "All stations report ready," her first officer announced. Looked at the crew around her. 2,000 volunteers from 30 different countries. Engineers who had learned alien technology in weeks. Soldiers who had never been to space before this mission. All of them ready to die. "Open a channel to all human forces," she said. Her voice carried across Earth and into orbit. "This is Commander of the Defiance. For 63 days we have fought alone. We have bled alone. We have died alone. Today that changes." She pointed at where the fleet hung like metal mountains. "They came here thinking we were prey. They thought we would run. They thought we would beg. They were wrong." The Defiance's engines roared to life. "All ships, all fighters, all forces, follow me. Show them what predators look like." The battle began. Lieutenant led a squadron of modified fighters toward the nearest dreadnought. His plane was different now. It carried plasma cannons instead of missiles. Its shields glowed with stolen alien technology. "Target their weapon systems," he ordered. "Keep them busy while the Defiance gets into position." The fighters swarmed around the dreadnought like angry insects. Guns tried to track them, but humans flew differently than any species the Empire had faced. They did not follow patterns. They did not maintain formations. They fought like individuals, each one unpredictable, each one dangerous. On the ground, Specialist's successor, a young corporal named, watched the battle in the sky. He was standing in the ruins of Seoul, surrounded by soldiers who had been fighting for 2 months without rest. "Look at that," one of them whispered. "We actually built a spaceship." Smiled, "We built more than a spaceship. We built a message." The message was clear. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not kneel. Humanity would fight until the last human drew their last breath. In orbit, the Defiance engaged the lead dreadnought directly. Plasma bolts flew between them. The ship was larger, stronger, better designed, but had something the commander did not have. She had nothing to lose. "Redirect all power to forward shields and weapons," she ordered. "We are going straight through them." "Commander, that is suicide." "Maybe, but our job is not to survive. Our job is to win." The Defiance charged forward. Its weapons fired continuously, pouring energy into the enemy shields. The ship returned fire. Explosions rocked the human vessel. Fires broke out on 3 decks. Crew members died at their stations. But the Defiance kept coming. Captain flew alongside the great ship, protecting it from enemy fighters. Her gun never stopped firing. Every shot found a target. When her ammunition ran out, she rammed her plane into an interceptor, ejecting at the last second. A rescue shuttle picked her up. She immediately took command of its guns and kept fighting. The battle lasted 18 hours. They had never faced resistance like this. Their tactics were designed for enemies who valued survival, but humans did not fight to survive. They fought to win. They crashed their ships into enemy vessels. They flew into gun batteries to silence them. They used their own bodies as weapons. Slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. One dreadnought's engines exploded, sending it spinning into its neighbor. Both ships collided in a shower of fire and metal. The third dreadnought began to retreat, its commander unwilling to die for a planet that simply would not break. But the original ship, Empress flagship, remained. The Defiance had taken terrible damage. Half its crew was dead. Its weapons were failing. Its shields were gone, but Commander was still alive, still fighting. "Target their engines," she said. "One last shot." "Commander, our weapons are depleted." Looked at the enemy ship on her. She thought about her family, killed in the first attack. She thought about the millions who had died. She thought about what surrender would mean for those still alive. "Then we become the weapon," she said quietly. She ordered the evacuation of all non-essential crew. Escape pods launched from the Defiance, carrying survivors toward Earth. Within minutes, only a skeleton crew remained. "All hands, this is your commander. You know what we are about to do. Anyone who wants to leave, go now. No one will think less of you." No one left. Took manual control of the ship. The Defiance turned toward the enemy flagship. "Humanity does not surrender," she said, her voice broadcast to the entire fleet. "We do not know how." The Defiance accelerated. Saw the human ship coming. He ordered evasive action, but it was too late. The flagship's damaged engines could not move fast enough. The collision was visible from Earth. 2 great ships met in a flash of light brighter than the sun. The explosion spread across miles of space. Metal and fire mixed together in a beautiful, terrible cloud. When it cleared, both ships were gone. On the ground, silence fell. Soldiers stopped fighting. Civilians stopped running. Everyone looked up at the sky, where pieces of metal fell like stars. Then through the smoke and debris, they saw something. The 3 dreadnoughts were broken. The flagship was destroyed. The enemy fleet, the invincible force that had conquered 43 worlds, was retreating. Corporal climbed onto a pile of rubble that had once been a government building. In his hand, He held a Korean flag, torn and burned but still whole. He planted it in the ruins and turned to face the sky. "We are still here," he said. The image was captured by a dozen cameras. It spread across Earth within hours. A single human standing in destruction, defiant to the end. The Battle of Earth was over. Humanity had won. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Earth. The world was still healing. Cities lay in ruins. Millions were dead, but humanity was alive. Humanity was free. Admiral stood in the rebuilt Seoul Command Center. The room was different now. New screens showed images from across the solar system. New officers wore new uniforms designed for a new age. And above it all, visible through reinforced windows, hung the orbital shipyard where a dozen new vessels were being built. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Empire." Nodded, he had been expecting this. "Put it through." The screen flickered and Emperor appeared. He looked older than before. His 4 eyes were tired. His golden armor had lost its shine. "Admiral," the Emperor said, "I speak to you on behalf of the Empire." "I am listening." "We wish to negotiate a peace agreement. The Empire recognizes that Earth is not worth the cost of conquest. We will withdraw all claims to your system in exchange for a promise of non-aggression." Was silent for a moment. 3 months ago, he would have accepted immediately. 3 months ago, peace was the only thing that mattered. But things had changed. "Your offer is declined," said. His eyes widened. "You refuse peace." "I refuse your terms," stepped closer to the screen. "For 400 years, your empire has conquered and enslaved. You came to Earth expecting to add us to your collection. You killed millions of our people. You destroyed our cities. You tried to make us kneel." His voice grew harder. "We will not negotiate with you as equals. We are not equals. You are the species that preys on the weak. We are the species that fights back." His face showed something had never seen from a before: fear. "What do you want?" Turned slightly. Behind him, a door opened. Doctor walked in, followed by a group of scientists and military officers. Captain was there too, her arm still in a sling from the battle. Lieutenant stood beside her, his face but proud. And finally, walking slowly with a cane, came. The had released her as part of a prisoner exchange. She was thin and broken, but she had survived. "We want you to watch," said. The screen behind him changed. It showed Earth's new fleet. 12 ships, each one built using a combination of human and technology. They were not patchwork monsters like the Defiance. They were sleek. They were powerful. They were designed for one purpose: war. "In the past 3 months, we have learned everything about your technology," continued. "We have improved it. We have built ships that can match your dreadnoughts, and we have trained crews who are not afraid to use them." He paused to let the Emperor understand. "We will not conquer your worlds. We are not like you. But if you ever return to our sky, if you ever threaten our children, our home, or our future, we will bring fire to your doorstep. Not because we want war, because we will not accept chains." The transmission ended, did not wait for a response. In the days that followed, reports came from across the Empire. Admirals were refusing to lead fleets toward Earth. Soldiers were deserting rather than face the species that had defeated 4 dreadnoughts. The conquered worlds were beginning to ask questions. If humans could fight back, why could they not do the same? The empire that had stood for 400 years was beginning to crack. 1 month later, the United Council of Earth met for the first time since the invasion began. Representatives from every nation gathered in a newly built hall. Above them, through a glass ceiling, they could see the stars. Doctor addressed the assembly. "We have spent our entire history fighting each other," she said. "We have built weapons capable of destroying our own planet 100 times over. We have waged wars over land, over religion, over ideas. Some say this is our greatest weakness." She looked around the room. I believe it is our greatest strength. We know how to fight. We know how to sacrifice. We know how to survive. The thought this made us primitive. They were wrong. It made us ready. Pressed a button and a holographic image appeared above the assembly. It showed a ship unlike any that had been built before. It was massive, larger than the Defiance. Its design was elegant. Its weapons were powerful, but it carried something different in its heart. Hope. This is the Unity, announced. Humanity's first true starship. It is designed not just for defense but for exploration, for reaching out to the stars, for finding other species who suffer under empire. She smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. They meant to erase us. Instead, they woke us up. Now we take our place among the stars, and every species that lives in fear will know that they are not alone. Humanity answered with fire, not fear, and humanity will help them do the same. The assembly erupted in applause. Representatives who had argued for centuries embraced each other. Old enemies became allies. For the first time in human history, Earth was truly united. In the back of the room, Captain watched quietly. She thought about Commander, who had given her life for this moment. She thought about Sergeant, who had crashed her plane into a shield generator. She thought about all the soldiers and civilians who had died so that humanity could live. Was it worth it? A voice asked. Turned to find Lieutenant standing beside her. All that death, all that pain, was it worth it? Looked up through the glass ceiling. She could see the shipyard where the Unity was being built. She could see the defense platforms that protected Earth. She could see the stars, waiting for humanity to reach them. Ask me again in 100 years, she said. When humans are exploring galaxies we cannot even imagine. When children grow up knowing they will never be slaves. When the memory of the is just a story told around campfires. She turned to look at. Then I will tell you it was worth everything. Outside, the first human starship prepared for its maiden voyage. 2,000 volunteers from every nation stood ready. They would travel farther than any human had ever gone. They would find new worlds. They would meet new species. And they would carry with them the message that had saved Earth. Never surrender, never kneel. Answer every threat with fire, not fear. As the Unity's engines roared to life, Admiral stood at the viewing platform with Doctor, Captain, and the others who had fought for this moment. Where do you think they will go first? Asked. Wherever they are needed, replied. There are worlds out there waiting for hope. We will bring it to them. The ship rose into the sky, climbing higher and higher until it was just a bright star among many. Then it vanished, jumping into hyperspace toward a future no one could predict. In the Empire, Emperor watched the reports with growing dread. The humans were coming, not to conquer, not to enslave, but to inspire. And inspiration, he knew, was more dangerous than any weapon. On Earth, the survivors of the invasion returned to their lives. They rebuilt their cities. They buried their dead. They raised their children with stories of the war. And when those children looked up at the stars, they did not see threats. They did not see enemies. They saw possibilities. They saw home. The universe had thought humans were weak. The universe had been wrong. And now the universe would never forget the species that refused to kneel. The species that answered with fire, not fear. Humanity.